Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. Good to see you.
We'll go ahead and get started. People will be popping in, I'm sure. My name's Carmel Stabley. I'm the Vice President of TLS, and I'm here tonight to co-host along with Lars Howlett, who was on the faculty of Veriditas. So we're excited to invite you and welcome you into crafting and facilitating walks for World Labyrinth Day. Planning a World Labyrinth Day event is a sacred and exciting work. Whether you're doing a virtual or an in-person event for 200, with a few good planning tools, anyone or any team can create a beautiful, transformative experience on World Labyrinth Day. So before we actually dive into, some of the new tools and things that we have to offer you, I'd like to just take a few moments to just become centered and just become present to this moment. I'm going to ask you to take just a couple cleansing breaths with me, and then I'm simply going to read you what we call the pre-World Labyrinth Day intention. Now, this intention is different than walking as one at one during World Labyrinth Day. This intention helps to prepare our hearts leading up to May 2nd. So this is a great intention to use personally, to use in your small groups, to use in your planning groups. And the whole intention, which includes a meditation, just to let you know, is on the website. I'll show it to you later. We're going to do an abbreviated version tonight. So let's go ahead and take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. Let's breathe in to 4 beats together, breathing in deeply. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhaling deeply. 1, 2, 3, 4. Closing your eyes, relaxing your shoulders, taking one more deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll go ahead and read the intention to you and let it just sink in your heart. The second time I read it, I'm going to ask you to repeat it after me. The hearts of the hosts and participants are prepared for World Labyrinth Day. All labyrinths are connected for the highest good of our world. So on this second reading, say it or whisper it to yourself after me. The hearts of the hosts and participants are prepared for World Labyrinth Day. All labyrinths are connected for the highest good of our world. And so it is. Namaste. So I ask you, what does it mean to walk as one at 1 o'clock? Today, more than ever, we encourage World Labyrinth Day as a practice for world peace and planetary healing. Many celebrate the day with different enhancing activities, but the true focus is on unity, collective intention, and focusing our energy around building and sustaining a peaceful world for all inhabitants, human and more than human. And one way that you can do this is as you're walking on World Labyrinth Day in your time zone, picture the people who walked before you. Picture them sending you that wave of energy. Picture yourself capturing that wave of energy. And as you walk, go ahead and picture the people in the next time zone that's going to be walking after you, and go ahead and send them your intentions. Send the intentions to their towns, to their governments, and let them catch that wave. If you could picture a world map with all 24 time zones on it, you can see how that rolls across the world. It sort of starts in New Zealand and Australia. It works its way through Asia and Europe, off of the coast of Africa, through the Atlantic Ocean. We catch it in the Americas and we send it over to the Hawaiian Islands. So if you could think of that and think of that rolling wave, that's a nice way to add a little visual to your walk on World Labyrinth Day. I'm going to go over a few new things that we have for you this year. Now, this whole website is rich and very juicy with all kinds of information and resources for you, but we wanted to make sure that you knew some of the new ones that are happening. And I want to say a shout out to Susie Leeper and Scott Hensley, who worked very hard behind the scenes to create all of these beautiful resources on this website for you. They're the webmasters for World Labyrinth Day. Some of our new resources, if you want to go and follow me a little bit, checking into World Labyrinth Day 2026, I wanted you to see the really easy to use form that we have for you to submit your event this year. So go ahead and check that out. And then once you submit it, it goes on this wonderful color-coded map where everyone can see, what's going on in the world and even get the details. Some of the other resources that we have, if you tab over to resources and just go down to planning tools, something new. It was requested last year. 2 of these new items were requested last year. We heard you and we created these for you. One is a land acknowledgement. So you can go on the site, and here it is right here. We encourage you to use it as is or go ahead and customize it if you'd like. But you can certainly go ahead and download that tool. This is the timeline. And, it doesn't matter where you're at in your planning. There are tips that you can glean off of this timeline. You can drop right down to February and March and sort of see what you should be doing around this time. But, just go back and forth and take a look at all the different things, no matter where you are in your planning, and use it as a checklist. And all of those are live links, so that could be helpful for you as well. Something else that I really want to make sure that you see, back on resources again. I mean, you could spend all day just on resources. If you go into PR materials, it has a nice, you can jump right to whatever you want. Like if you're looking for World Labyrinth Day flyer translations, you can go right to that. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through real quick. There's our press release. These are all of our logos you can peel off. And look at this. This is kind of new this year, a QR code for you to use. All kinds of text announcements that you can use. You can cut and paste everything, or copy and paste everything. It's all thought out for you. This right here is a must-see. You can download either one of these fillable templates and put in all of your local Labyrinth Walk information, the date, the title. This side right here will give you all kinds of space to, put the details and what have you. I just have to let you know that we have another flyer. We call it the generic flyer that basically talks about World Labyrinth Day. It looks like this. It has the new QR code on it that, you can use as a poster or on, social media. And look at this, guys. It comes in 15 different languages. 15 different languages. We've got Dutch and German. We have Spanish on here. And while we're talking about different languages, while you're on the website, if you right click and drop down to this menu where it says translate to English, you can go ahead and choose a different language. So if you want to choose Spanish or whatever, I'm going to show it to you in Arabic. Look at this. This is what it looks like in Arabic. Isn't that cool? And then you just go back and choose your language, go back to English or whatever your first language is. But so, boy, if you have a friend who's interested in World Labyrinth Day that doesn't speak English, not a problem. Not a problem. All right. The other thing that's new this year, and we're kind of proud about, again, going to resources, dropping down to accessibility and inclusion. Let me just show you what they look like. We're going to play you a quick clip. There are they're about 25, 30-minute videos on accessibility and inclusion. And they were actually done by 2 TLS members that are sight impaired. So they have firsthand experience. Let's dive in to building accessibility and inclusion into the Labyrinth experience from the ground up. So, ladies, accessibility is most effective when the project begins with a universal design. So from written materials to website access to etiquette and offering labyrinth walk options, there are many details to consider to expand access. I have a few questions that I'd like for us to discuss today. And please, either one of you, as you feel led, just jump in and add to the discussion. But the first one I'm going to ask Maya Scott to chime in on. Maya, what's the difference between an accessible walk and a fully inclusive walk for the sight impaired?
There's a wonderful saying that is really moving to me and I think defines this beautifully, said by activist Verna Myers. And she says, accessibility is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. So think about the idea of going to a labyrinth walk as a person with a disability, or even as someone who speaks a different language. And the person comes up and says, welcome, come over here and sit down. I have something that you can use while the rest of us do our thing in the middle. Maybe that's that finger labyrinth that is your accessibility tool. It's great. Glad you have it. But it definitely puts somebody to the side. Same thing with we have our basics in Spanish, and we hope you enjoy the presentation. Maybe someone can tell you about it later who speaks Spanish. So just thinking about accessibility and inclusion as thinking from the ground up, if possible. I know a lot of us already have programs and services and spaces initiated and going strong. So we'll talk more about ways that we can adapt that and whatnot. Meanwhile, look at universal design and the ability to make something that is useful for everybody, not just the one blind person or wheelchair user or different, someone who speaks a different language or whatnot.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to chime in really quickly and say that when you make labyrinth spaces accessible for people with disabilities, including people who are blind or low vision, you're making them more accessible for everybody. So, think about the tactile bumps on a ramp. Those help not just people who are blind or low vision cross the street, but they help people in wheelchairs. They help people with strollers, with children. So when you think about universal design and you're starting to create a labyrinth program or a new labyrinth build, making sure that accessibility is built in from the very start will not only make your labyrinth inclusive, but will also improve the experience for everyone who walks that labyrinth in the future.
So there's two videos. I hope that you go ahead and download. They're short to watch and very inspiring. Something else that's new this year that I'm really happy for is we're having a couple of group of people supporting us energetically. If you go to the home screen over to partners and supporters, go ahead and click that. And while I'm here, let me just mention our World Labyrinth Day partners again. These are the 4 pillars throughout the world: TLS, Australian Labyrinth Network, Legacy Labyrinth Project, and Veriditas. These 4 organizations meet monthly, sometimes twice a month, almost all year round, to plan World Labyrinth Day and supply you with the resources that we're sharing today. New this year is some energy work communities. Now, we've always had the Labyrinth Locator as a supporting organization. I hope that you look on the Labyrinth Locator to see, labyrinths near you that might be having walks. or you could use to have a walk. But this year, we're so grateful to these organizations for supporting World Labyrinth Day with energetic earth energy, sound energy, and collective intention in all the time zones, especially those not served by labyrinth walkers. So we have the American Society of Dowsers, who are going to be energetically connecting all the labyrinths across the world, for our higher good. We have Red Doors, which that these are gong players and song healing bowl players that are going to be playing during 1 o'clock in their time zone. And on that note, if you have people locally that you can invite that are gong players or they use the sounding bowls, have them come to your walk and play and just join in that energetic or sound energy, that rising of the harmony that's going to help float that frequency, help send that wave across the ocean. And then we have our the Labyrinth Society energy keepers who are going to be sending intention, all around the world at, 1 o'clock for us. So we're really happy to have people behind the scenes who are going to be holding us and sending energy and sending intention. Five new finger labyrinth walks have been added to our schedule this year. For now, you can choose from 8 different finger labyrinth walks, but they check back constantly because we're adding more around the world. And what's nice about this is once you get done your walk, you can go ahead and register for a finger labyrinth walk in another time zone. Or if you can't make it to a live walk, you can go ahead and join one, hopefully in a time zone that's convenient for you. So we're excited about adding these finger walks for everybody. So if you go to World Labyrinth Day 2026, get down to virtual events, wow, you can see them all listed, guys. There's like 6 of them here, soon to be 6. This one's still under construction. If you keep going down, there's a few more added here. We've got Lithuania, Canada, USA. Now, if you're not sure what your UTC is or your CST is, you can go and pull down this time map and take a look and find out where that is. So now I would be remiss if I did not talk a little bit about World Labyrinth Day in educational settings. We have some fantastic resources for anyone working with children. And as you know, World Labyrinth Day in educational settings is the Friday before. So it's this year, it's May the 1st. So you can take these tools to school with you that day. You can use them in your Sunday schools. You can use them any time of the year. They're fabulous. All you have to do is go down here and click to the Australian Labyrinth Network, and there you have it. And you can even go back to previous years if you want to. This is jam-packed. Absolutely jam-packed. And if you want to know more, you can go ahead and look at the February workshop where the Australian Labyrinth Network went ahead and presented all of this. So you can download that and review that yourself again. Well, I'm going to stop sharing. And at this time, I would like to go ahead and turn this over to Lars Howlett. He needs no introduction. Most people know him from the faculty of Veriditas. I consider him a dear friend. I look up to him to help me with temporary labyrinths. I'm always inspired what he comes up with for temporary labyrinths. So Lars, thanks for being here tonight, and take it away.
Well, thank you, Carmel, and it's just incredible all the resources you all have put together for World Labyrinth Day. It's a great to have that all to build off of. So I'm going to share just some ideas and inspiration for creating World Labyrinth Day events, and I've been hosting events since 2011, I think was the first time. So this will be 14 years of creating events for World Labyrinth Day, which is always fun to invite new people and think of new things. I always try to do something different every year, just to keep it fresh and to experiment and have fun with it. So this is a quote from Dr. Maria Montessori. "We shall walk together on this path of life, for all things are part of the universe and are connected with each other. to form one whole unity. And I really feel like that reflects the intention of World Labyrinth Day, that we are all connected together in our walks around the world. I'm going to begin with crafting labyrinths. So I'm a labyrinth designer and builder, and I think World Labyrinth Day is a great opportunity to create a labyrinth, and it doesn't have to be even walkable. You can see people make symbolic labyrinths, like this one in Ohio, and these are actual pictures from previous World Labyrinth Day events, not mine, but someone just used sticks by a lake to make a labyrinth. In South Africa, you can see a walkable labyrinth made with chalk. And in Indiana, John Ritter always refreshes or renews, restores, and weeds labyrinths on World Labyrinth Day. So if you have a lonely labyrinth near you, World Labyrinth Day can be a good opportunity to kind of revive it. Here's some other examples from previous World Labyrinth Days. Houston, Texas, they actually built a permanent labyrinth, and I'll be doing that this year in Little Rock, Arkansas. We'll be creating the labyrinth all week, and then we'll be dedicating it and having the inaugural walk on World Labyrinth Day. In Tasmania, Australia, you can see a beach labyrinth, and that's a really incredible way to expose the labyrinth to new people. By creating a labyrinth on the beach, just whoever passes by will undoubtedly be drawn in and go for a walk. And then you can share with them the idea that this is World Labyrinth Day. And then, look at how creative. Someone actually painted little labyrinths on their toes in Colorado. In Malta, at the top of the screen in the middle, you see a handheld labyrinth someone created with seashells glued on a board, or maybe it's just a temporary labyrinth that's not even glued. In French Polynesia, you see they used a hose and some balls from like a children's ball pit to create a little labyrinth. And in Hungary, we have a labyrinth that's made of firewood. So I always say you can make a labyrinth out of anything you have a lot of. So, like one time I made a labyrinth out of my coin collection because I had like a jar full of nickels, dimes, and quarters, and I made a labyrinth out of it. So my favorite material for making temporary labyrinths is masking tape because it's very forgiving. You can erase just by pulling up the tape. And, you can use masking tape to make very intricate, lovely labyrinths like this heart-shaped 5-circuit chart variation that I created for an elementary school. But you can also make them simply with straight lines. If you don't have a floor tape applicator, then you can just pull straight lines of tape. And I made this one in my backyard on my concrete paver patio. But a tip, if you're going to do this, a lot of spaces, indoors and outdoors, have like a grid, like in the multi-purpose room here, there were tiles. And so I used that as my graph paper. And the width of these lines is 1.5 tiles wide. So you don't even have to really measure. You just use the underlaying pattern. Like in my backyard, I had these pavers, and so I made one paver width the line width, which makes it simple. Yeah, this is a video from Labyrinth Summer School in Sydney, Australia, and this is if you want to make a quick labyrinth as fast as possible. I used to have an art walk every month, and I was always stressed out about creating a labyrinth before the art walk. So I came up with this technique of using a floor tape applicator and a spiral. And after much practice, I'm now able to make a labyrinth in less than 2 minutes. So I'll put a link in the chat with this machine, which I just found for sale on Amazon. Unfortunately, the company that I used to source them from no longer sells them, but I was looking in between the meetings today, and this way you can make curved lines really well with a machine. And I did a whole World Labyrinth Day webinar on pop-up labyrinths, so you'll find in the chat a link to the 1-hour webinar about this method and an explanation about how to do it. But basically, you can start in the center of the space and just work your way out, and you don't even have to think about how many circuits you're doing. You just, as long as you make more than 4 loops, then you add this line of 4 and 2 lines of 2, and that creates the entrance to the labyrinth and the entrance to the center. And once you've made your spiral and you've laid down your 3 lines, then you erase or remove the tape in between the lines and create the turns and open up the entrance. And you actually end up with a archetypal labyrinth, which is called the Chakra Vyuha, which is a Indian labyrinth that's a variation of the classical pattern. So basically, it's like a classical labyrinth with a spiral center. But there you go. My second favorite material after masking tape is ribbon, and you can use this is called holographic ribbon that's used for like scaring birds away from vineyards and gardens. And I made this labyrinth for the New Living Expo in San Rafael, California, and it reflects the light and it's got like rainbows and all that. So I bought 2 rolls of this, and instead of doing the spiral technique, I made concentric circles, or octagons or decagons or what these are. But you make concentric shapes, and then again you open up the entrance and the turns. And this was very playful and fun. But if you're worried about scaring the birds, you could use something like cornmeal. And we did this at Reed College in Oregon for Earth Day. And because it was Earth Day, we wanted to make a labyrinth with no waste. So we used the cornmeal, and we used a field marker for like a soccer field. This is a Baltic wheel design that I created with a center stake. The machine is tied with a real tape measure, and that creates the kind of compass. You're basically creating like a drawing compass with the center stake and the machine. And what was incredible, we didn't quite know what to expect, but at the end of the day, a flock of geese came in and consumed the labyrinth and recycled it for us. And it's really fun to think about how the labyrinth was ingested and kind of flew away across the state, maybe even across the border. So So, if you have a labyrinth or you now are ready to make one, then you can begin to imagine what type of event or experience you will be facilitating for your community this year. And so I like to think about this as kind of sculpting the experience. And you can do that with an open walk where people arrive over the course of the day, or a facilitated group walk where everyone walks at a specific time. You could have a ceremony or a dedication with a ritual. You could invite people to participate in some sort of creative expression. You could offer a program, a more formal kind of sit-down experience. And you could offer something handheld labyrinth walk. And this doesn't have to be online. You could, like I've heard at a church, they handed out printed paper labyrinths to the entire congregation, and everybody in the church traced the finger labyrinth together at the same time. And then you could have a multifaceted event that incorporates a variety of experiences. So in an open walk, people from the general public arrive anytime between, say 2 to 4 p.m. You may greet them individually or in small groups as they come, and then they walk the labyrinth. And when they're ready to go, they leave at their own time and pace. So this is an example from the Buri Buri Labyrinth in Australia. The thing about this is when you advertise your event, you say, World Labyrinth Day will be held from 12 to 2 p.m. on Saturday, and then, people can come and walk. And especially if you think you might have a large turnout, then it's nice to have an open walk. And it also gives people more opportunity, if they're having lunch or something else going on in their life, that they could, a span of time that they can participate in. At the Parliament of World Religions, we also included music, and that's especially important if there's going to be noise or distractions in your space. As Carmel was saying, music is a great way to raise the energy and vibration, and literally you can do that with sound bowls. And Eileen Wolfington brought her bowls, and she had one that people could stand in before they walked the labyrinth, and you would ring the bowl with them standing, and it was such an incredible way to come into the present moment and to drop into the experience, although we're in the middle of a giant conference center with people milling around. And I really encourage live music, especially if you have a friend or a person in your community who can play, and usually improvisational, non-verbal instrumental music is really good for a walk. In Washington, D.C. last year, I facilitated a walk with Ellen Vovoda, and I have this earth tablecloth that's like machine washable, and it has a satellite image of the earth. And so I taped that into the center of the labyrinth. But it's important to tell people that it's okay to stand on the earth, because many people arrive in the center and then they feel kind of hesitant to step onto the beautiful tablecloth. But I say, this is machine washable. This is an opportunity to stand and connect to the earth. And then I also made these little signs, like election kind of signs that you can get from FedEx Kinko's, and I printed them off and used them to advertise the walk. And because I didn't put the date on it, we could reuse these. I added a piece of paper that I wrote, join us at this place at this time, underneath the sign, but I can reuse the signs by not putting the date on them. At the Parliament of World Religions also, it was a full day experience, and if you're having a long-term walk, you could put out a sign that stands in as the facilitator and tells people that how to walk the labyrinth, and maybe shares the intention and tells people that it's World Labyrinth Day. If you have multiple labyrinths in your community, you could put a sign up at each labyrinth and host 3 different events in some ways. The next level would be to have a facilitated group walk. And this is when you invite everyone to arrive at a specific time to welcome them and orient them together as a group. And if you're doing this, then you don't want to say my labyrinth event is from 2 to 4 p.m. You want to say your labyrinth event is at 2 o'clock. It'll last about an hour, but people arrive at 2 o'clock and you greet them as a group. You have more opportunity to explain about World Labyrinth Day and the intention, and maybe even have people introduce themselves and share their own intentions. And then usually you would invite people to, after they walk the labyrinth, to hold space for each other, and then to close the labyrinth walk with either a bell or a poem, something to bring the event to a close together. So it's really, the focus is that it's a shared group walk, not an individual walk. That can be indoors or outdoors. You see in Uruguay on a canvas labyrinth, outdoors on a canvas labyrinth in Poland, and in New Jersey you can see a dedication of a labyrinth, which, even if you have an old labyrinth, you can rededicate the labyrinth. You can have a ceremony. World Labyrinth Day is a great way to inform people about what labyrinths are, and get new people to realize what they have in their community. So the next level of an event would be to actually have a ceremony or a ritual, like a dedication. And usually a ritual involves some sort of tactile experience where you're using your hands, but maybe also the senses, like smell or here in Devon, England, we have a group that's actually holding a string of prayer flags and walking together with the flags in their hand. So that's kind of a different experience. In Parksville, British Columbia, you can see people would carry a candle into the center and then place a candle in the center and then walk out of the labyrinth. And in Queensland, Australia, you can see here's a stone, and participants were invited to walk to the center of the labyrinth and then use a Sharpie to write a word of intention on a stone and then carry that out of the labyrinth with them. So I like the idea of involving people in some sort of participatory experience that they even like can take something with them or bring something to the labyrinth. Sometimes people do that on their own accord. This sweet little girl brought her own streamers and brought them to World Labyrinth Day and danced the labyrinth. So, what would it be to have a whole bunch of streamers available for people to carry through the labyrinth? Also at Grace Cathedral, we had handbells, and so as people walked through the labyrinth, they were invited to ring the handbell as they journeyed through and set it down when they finished. Also indoors at Grace Cathedral, we had hand coloring of labyrinths. So, if people, just another way to engage in the archetype of the labyrinth is to color it, and then they could take it home as a finger labyrinth. At the Palo Alto Museum for an Earth Day event, I created a labyrinth out of cut trimmings from trees around the community. They were branches, and the labyrinth was just bare branches, but children and parents were invited to create little flowers, paper flowers, and then write their intention of how they plan to grow or bloom that year. So, and then they would walk through the labyrinth and tape their flowers onto the sticks, and then over the course of the day, the labyrinth flowered, and then you could walk around and you could read other people's intentions. So the next level of event is hosting a workshop or a program, and this is if you have a space like an indoor space, you could host a slideshow or a presentation. You could teach people how to draw the classical labyrinth from the seed pattern. You could have a craft where people make their own handheld labyrinth. You can involve them in collage, mosaics, rubbings, origami. We also have a lot of labyrinth films on YouTube and Vimeo or DVD. And like the one Susie's going to show at the end of the program is a montage of people walking the labyrinths all around the world. So it'd be incredible to watch that on World Labyrinth Day. There's also wisdom cards, either by Tony Christie or Lauren Artris. If you wanted to invite people to pull a card and have a reflection, the possibilities are endless. And I think what's great about doing this is that it creates many different entry points into the labyrinth experience. Often we think you have to walk the labyrinth or, trace it by hand. But you can also celebrate World Labyrinth Day simply by drawing a labyrinth or, reading about labyrinths or watching a labyrinth film or, engaging in the experience in other ways. And if you provide a multitude of ways, then that, like Maya Scott was saying, provides more accessibility and inclusion. Yeah, and we've talked about finger labyrinth walks. So here you go. I think this is really incredible, way to share in the labyrinth experience, and that can even be virtual but have the same power. And usually we play music as well for a finger labyrinth walk. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but the idea is just to inspire you and get your creative juices flowing. And if you just take away one creative idea, then that's my intention. I don't expect you to actually do this. But this is the most ambitious project that I ever did, which is called Into the Labyrinth. It was at the Annenberg Community Beach House in Santa Monica. And it was a 3-day event, but 2 of the days were actually creating the labyrinths. And then the 3rd day was people walking the labyrinth. But it wasn't just me creating the labyrinth. I involved, a team of like 40 volunteers to help make these labyrinths. And so I think if you can involve people in the making or planning of the event, I think that creates more ownership and interest in the experience. This is a triple yin-yang water cycle labyrinth. So it was a contemporary pattern that I created reflecting on, water, which is really a rare and precious thing in Southern California. So after the labyrinths were created, I created one on the hardscape, which is like a concrete patio, and then I created two on the beach, also for accessibility. And who says you can't have 2 or 3 labyrinths at your World Labyrinth Day event? Even at Grace Cathedral, we had the outdoor 11th Circuit, but I taped a smaller labyrinth at Grace Cathedral with wider pathways so that people would have another labyrinth to walk. At the event, on the Sunday, we had a silent walk and tea ceremony at sunrise. Then in the early afternoon, we had an artist talk and slideshow about the history of labyrinths. And then at sunset, we had a ritual walk where we all carried a rope walking through the labyrinth together. And then in between the events, it was an open walk for people to experience on their own time. We also had prayer flags that people could write their own blessings and intentions as a ritual. So here you can see the second and third labyrinths that I created. A giant wave, which is like a double spiral, kind of the earliest form of the meander that evolved into the labyrinth. And then this is a sun labyrinth rising out of the ocean. And see, it's right next to the bike trail and the walking path. So the intention was not only to invite people to come to the event, but also just to kind of use the labyrinth as a magnet and have people, discover it as they walked by. I said we used volunteers for the building of it, but we also used the volunteers to help, maintain the labyrinths over the course of the event. We also had the volunteers plant all the 1,000 flags in the labyrinth for people to write their blessings on. Oakland had a tool library where you could rent tools for free. And so like all the rakes and stakes and materials were provided free from the library. There were beach wheelchairs provided by the city of Santa Monica. So we had beach wheelchairs and we included that in the advertising so people knew that they would be available. The labyrinth locator we used to create a little map of local labyrinths in Los Angeles, because even though it was a temporary labyrinth and a one-day event, we thought, well, people might want to find labyrinths after the event. And so we handed out these little cards with the local labyrinths on them. And I had a local friend who was a cellist and he played for the event. I had another friend who was a filmmaker who filmed it and documented. It was just an incredible coming together. So many people creating this space. It's just so beautiful when you involve other people in the planning and creation of the event as well as the experience of it. So these are kind of like little electrical flags that you would use to like mark underground cables and things. And so that's what we used with a bowl of Sharpies. And I got like rainbow colors, all different colors of Sharpies for people to write and draw on the labyrinths. I mean, the flags with their intentions. So I wanted to close with this quote, which is from a student regent from a dedication of a labyrinth to bring us full circle here today. He says, "This space extends beyond the individual. It beckons our community to come together, to engage in shared experiences that enrich our collective journey. The labyrinth fosters communal activities, offering a canvas for group walks and mindfulness sessions. In the footsteps of one another, we find connection, we forge bonds, and we discover a sense of unity that is the very essence of our campus spirit." And that's Josiah Bahari from UC Merced.
Thank you, Lars. That's absolutely stunning. Oh, just stunning. And we're going to go ahead and play the World Labyrinth Day montage. We want to say a special thank you for Susie Lieber, who put that together. When you give us your favorite pictures from your event, it's Miss Susie who puts this together for us, and she does a lovely job. So for those of you who want to stay and watch the movie with us, go right ahead. If you have to leave, we want to thank you for being here with us tonight. Blessings on your World Labyrinth Day, and go ahead and take it away, Susie. I hope you feel that was worth waiting for. We always think it's a lovely way to end our workshops. So I want to once again, thank Lars for being here tonight. Thank Louise. And thanks Susie for being here tonight. They're all on the World Labyrinth Day team. Again, blessings on your day. Make sure that you come to the next workshop on April the 11th. I hope to see you all there and have a good rest of your day.
Peace on your path.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.